Is it really a surprise to me that they're taking you seriously? I always had the very best seats, now they're calling you off of the streets. Your face is now a sharpened jaw, and all these women are in shock and awe. That such a nice guy could be so unrefined. It's like an ancient tale curse, and what you leave will be what's worse. There's no one around in the whole lot for us to be seen and called on. And I've been hoarding all your tapes again. I know you got your spotted intent. And I'll be waiting when I walk in the door, knowing how these conversations tend to go. Your eyes don't read them right, but I can't stop thinking of this mind. It's like an ancient tale curse, and what you leave will be what's worse. Just for now. It's like an ancient tale curse.
Gobble gobble, it's turkey time. We're talking about Eli Roth's new holiday slasher, Thanksgiving, and the rest of the man's filmography. I'm the number one Eli Roth apologist, number one Eli Roth stan. The whole episode is just me talking to myself. That's just a little joke. I've got three good friends here. My name is Connor Lloyd Crews, your wicked game master, the Joey Chestnut of talking about movies. Edwin Gomez is not here. He has not been seen in over a week. Friday morning, the morning after the previous, the previous recording, he said that he was going hunting for turkeys and got a gun out and wandered into the woods. And
I'm sure he's fine.
yeah,
Thoughts and prayers.
thoughts and prayers. If you know anything about his whereabouts, please contact Joe Biden. But also joining me is
What's up, guys? It's Brian. How are you?
and
Hey, Marcy Hyde or Hydra.
and
Hey, I'm Paul.
yep, it's Paul. Thanks guys for joining us. Joining me, I should say, not us. It was me. It was me and the demon inside of me speaking together. I want to thank Marina Sakamoto and her band Shunkin for the use of their song Curse off of the EP She Nods for our opening. It's been 16 days since the strike ended. The AMPTP still sucks. Yeah, let's get into it. I'm going to. Is it still doing? Whoop! I didn't mean to do that. It's still doing this thing. Okay, good. Let's talk about Thanksgiving. There's a beautiful. I searched online beautiful Thanksgiving dinner, and that was the first picture that came up. So.
Nice.
I know. Willem Dafoe is a beautiful man.
He is.
He is.
Look at that happy family.
Yeah.
Who wants to, Brian, Paul, who wants to give a summary of Thanksgiving?
I mean, it's Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, if we don't go into spoilers and we just talk about the base, it's a very, very simplistic thing. It's just it opens with a Black Friday shenanigans, and then just kind of turns into a straight up slasher film, which was really fun to see him do. And it really did feel like definitely like the 90s. I know a lot of people are saying like 90s because of the Scream world, but I feel like it obviously was rooted, because Scream was rooted from so many things in the 80s. But it is that feeling of all those slasher movies, and I get the benchmark people are thinking with the 90s stuff of it, but I definitely felt all of it. It felt like it could have been a Silent Night, Deadly Night, any of those old fashioned just the slasher films that we love, and he did it straightforward. It was cool.
I'll say, like, it goes a little bit deeper than for Black Friday nonsense. That opening sequence.
Oh, it's insane.
That's probably the best part of the movie. That's maybe one.
It's one of them. It's up there.
It's one of them. We'll talk about that because it's the opening. I guess if you're totally spoiler averse for Thanksgiving, then skip ahead. But it opens with it's like Thanksgiving evening Black Friday sale that becomes this like rampage stampede, people fighting each other, and like several characters die, several characters get very injured in like pretty gruesome and absurd ways, and it's a great, like, really long, I mean it's like it's for a 90-minute movie, or I guess like a 100-minute movie, it has like
but it's a good 15 minutes before we see that title card.
Yeah, it's a good 15, maybe even like 20 minutes almost before.
Well, it's also go ahead.
But then it also
to what the rest of the film is.
Exactly. It is the setup. It introduces all the characters who are going to be in the rest of the movie, and it introduces all the motivations for all the like suspects, essentially. Like there's about 3 or 4 main suspects, and it kind of introduces, well, why, like either one of their loved ones is the one who gets killed, or like one character who's like a baseball pitcher gets his arm broken. And so, like, that would be his motivation.
Right.
And
because we know, it's not spoilers to say that we know the killer is out for revenge for who is responsible for that Black Friday massacre.
Yeah, he's the killer's targeting people involved.
Because we should also say that the owner, because it is like a retail Kmart type of store, it's generic small town, but big enough that it was like a Kmart or something. And the father of one of the main protagonists is actually the owner of it. So there's a direct connection with everybody who's involved with that first scene. The way it works out is why you're sort of, the question marks of, again, the motive and who could be doing this is a few different scenarios. But and then it's all tied in with the characters.
Yeah, and then it skips forward basically like a year later to like the week before Thanksgiving, and it becomes this sort of like whodunit slasher, and it specifically centers on these kids who were, the main girl whose father owns the store, and their friends who sort of inadvertently caused the rampage to start by because her father owns the store, they like snuck in around the people waiting outside, and it like provoked them, and which kind of snowballed.
In a way that was like, here's the item that you're all waiting in line to get desperately, and just like rubbing in their faces. Basically.
Yeah,
well, they're dicks.
Yeah, it's super dicks. That's the thing.
Yeah, the main girl isn't, but all her friends are.
Yeah.
I mean, she wasn't like
she didn't say no and push it away.
Yeah, for sure.
But she, like, there's levels of dickishness.
Totally.
And she's on the lower rung.
For sure.
Which is like every slasher trope that you're gonna have, where you're gonna have the various characters that you want for one's, the final girl to the absolute idiot that's gonna get killed first.
Yeah. Some of that I really did that gore in that scene, like the guy, like they break through a door, like the glass, and it shatters, and they're like pushing people, and a guy gets his like neck like chopped up by the glass. That's
where I appreciated Eli Roth doing this, because you're like, no, he's not afraid. He wants to do things, and in this kind of a scenario, I wanted that level of it.
Are the lady
also just how over the top it is, like,
yeah,
just...
yeah. Well, and then
like, everything that goes wrong, and nobody cares.
We follow that guy as he's like dying. He goes over to like the free waffle iron that everyone wants, and he grabs it and like collapses with it.
Oh my God.
And then later in the same thing, we see like a lady come up and take that waffle iron out of
Rip it
his hands.
dead hands.
And
You know what I loved is because every time this would come up over the last decade, because it's obviously like I feel like it's mellowed out in the last few years, but there was that period where it got so insane that it's like everything you'd see on those videos, the YouTube and all this stuff, you're like, I only wish it kind of went further. Like you're like, it could get crazier.
Yeah.
And that's what we kind of get out of this is this familiar scene that we've all kind of seen dearly.
It is definitely
Eli
that.
Roth's level.
It's Eli
Yeah,
Roth
yeah.
like watching those videos of Black Friday
Yeah,
freakouts
totally.
and being like,
Which was so fun for me to like just jump in that first 20 minutes. You're like, okay, this is the setup. This is great.
And yeah, I won't ruin all the other great gore in that.
Because honestly, like I said, that whole like later half really does turn into a more straightforward like slasher movie, not in a bad way.
Yeah.
You know, not saying it's boring. It's fun to see the way it play out, but it is one of those that it's worth just venturing into because there's some great kills, but it's all the stuff that you know.
I know you were saying it reminds. It did like watching it. I'm like, yeah, this is very much a '90s-ish slasher movie, but it pulls elements, and not just for like genre purposes and pulling elements from different decades, but like it kind of like the small town aspect of it where it's just timeless. There's something about small towns where there's just elements from different decades because things have just stayed. Certain things have just stayed the same way because there's no reason to change it. And so you're just like, you have that 50s diner, you know, and like, you know, I can't think of exact moments, but even watching it, I was like, yeah, that's 70s, that's 80s. And I like that little detail. It made the small town seem kind of
real.
Well, and as somebody who grew up in New England, I appreciated the small town Massachusetts because I know that small town so much, you know, and it was fun to kind of watch that because you're like, yeah, this is the obnoxiousness that exists in this cultural aspect too, that made it fun when they're all like losing their shit and you know, especially in the mall, the shopping place.
Yeah, he doesn't go compared to the fake trailer from Grindhouse that this is sort of adapted from. He doesn't go for like a 70s pastiche, which I think probably works and makes it maybe a little more accessible and more of something.
That's probably giving it the 90s feel because that's where the meta stuff can play into, and I think the way it looks too, it fits more into that 90s style too.
But I would even just say beyond that, like I think it completely. I think it's its own thing. Like I think it's taking those things and making a very modern slasher that feels current. I think it's set in like 2018, 2019, so he doesn't have to deal with like pandemic stuff. But in terms of like the way social media is used, it's used in ways that isn't like cringy and feels like this is like an old man who doesn't. I mean, he's not that old, you know. I mean, that's part of it. Eli Roth isn't, but it feels genuine. Like it doesn't feel like but it also doesn't feel like pointed where it's like this is a social media slasher. It's just using it
exactly
like ticking boxes to tick boxes.
It used social media as an appropriate, like it used social media an appropriate amount. You know?
Yeah.
It's not like making commentary about social media.
No.
It's just more of like, this is the reality of our, you know, where we live, and this is what a slasher villain would be doing.
There's a little bit with like the one character posts the video online and that kind of makes the guy mad, but even that is like, you know, just kind of secondary to just being involved with the massacre in general. And I liked that stuff. Apparently Eli Roth said it seems like this is a movie he's kind of been wanting to make his whole life. Not this movie specifically, because obviously like certain things are obviously too modern, you know, that he couldn't have thought of all of this. Like the Black Friday stuff is much more recent, but I think the vibe that he wanted to make like a Thanksgiving slasher is something
absolutely
he's wanted to do, and you can definitely feel that passion. I really liked. I thought the most weirdly the moment that felt the most like Eli Roth to me in the whole movie, is the moment when we're left with the two because we know who the final girl's going to be, like pretty quickly.
Mhm.
But when
Right.
when it's revealed who like the other
the hot
final person is going to be, the
It's pretty easy on this one. Yeah.
yeah, but the other, but in terms of who the who like is remains and stuff, it's a little bit like it's not exactly who you would think is like the other one
Sure.
left in the friend group, and that felt like a very Eli Roth thing because I think he always likes doing that thing, because like Hostel I think is the most famous, the most prominent example.
He does know how to dupe as far as like thinking it's going to play out one way and then he throws up the other. And obviously, I can enhance that when we get to the hostile stuff. But yeah, it is one of those things that I actually really appreciate about him.
Yeah,
doing that.
because the
He
whole
takes
first
a formula and then alters.
yeah, because
Right.
like any person who doesn't know Hostel, if you like, but knows horror movies, if you show them the first 40 minutes of Hostel and are like, "Who's the main character?" They're gonna say it's the one
Right.
it's the one dude, and then you press play and you watch them die. Spoilers is for Hostel, and then it becomes like the asshole friend thing, and I always like that idea where like the character who's like kind of the asshole friend becomes something more. I like they don't do it as prominently, but in Midsommar, where the one dude who's just like a total shithead at the beginning of the movie, by the end you're like, he's actually like one of the more seems like one of the more chill guys.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about the dude who's who
my
I
dog
can't think of his name.
is
The one who
coughing.
yells about the daylight when they're like, "It can't be daylight."
Yeah, the
What's his
Will
name?
Will Poulter. Yeah, because at the
Yeah,
at,
Will
thank you,
Poulter.
yeah.
at the beginning
Yeah.
of the movie,
He's like pissing on the sacred log or whatever.
But
Yeah.
that's the thing. He just goes to get him out. That was the final.
well,
That's it.
it's just because it's like
Really
at the
crazy.
beginning of the movie, he's so loud and obnoxious and such an obvious
Right,
asshole.
right.
But as it goes
Yeah.
on, you realize he's not like manipulative and deceitful in the way all the
No,
other
he's
guys
just
are.
a dumb-
He's just a
outspoken dummy.
dumbass, and so he kind of becomes like one of the more nicer characters, so to speak, in that movie. And
Yeah.
like his like major sin is just being kind of stupid. Nothing
Right.
like
Yeah.
actually nothing that
Yeah,
bad.
you feel for him, and just the most basic. You're like, man, you just messed
Although,
up. You just should not be here.
I mean, I don't want to go too deep into Midsummer, but I'll say he was more of the best character because he didn't have like any he didn't do anything shitty.
He had
like,
nothing.
That shitty.
Well, his even.
It wasn't that he
scene
did
is
anything
hanging
Sitting
out.
in
good.
this weird place.
Yeah.
Like,
He didn't do anything good.
Yeah.
You know, he was just
Yeah,
like one of the
no.
only ones who didn't do anything shitty.
Yes.
You know?
But he also
I
wasn't
like
trying to
the
work on a
bystander.
paper. Right. Yeah. He just was like the most. I don't even know why I'm here. I'm just hanging out with my buddies to get hammered. And
Yeah,
meet girls. That's all. That was
which
his
is
whole agenda.
understandable.
Yeah.
It's not. It's just yeah. But anyways, back to Thanksgiving. Yeah, I like Thanksgiving a lot. I think I did miss a
Definitely.
little bit of like I wanted that narrative unhingedness a little more in the back half of the movie.
Sure.
I do think his last couple movies have probably been a little more accessible because he has stopped writing his movies. He's doing like
Yeah.
story and
Oh.
co-writing and stuff, and because I do think like no matter what you think of him, I think it's pretty obvious he's a better director than a writer. Like
Absolutely.
whatever you want to say, like his performances are always like pretty solid at a base level.
Yeah.
And he like
Yeah,
even
he doesn't pull the QT cameos, where you're just like, ooh,
yeah.
that's a tough one.
And he even just from like Cabin Fever, like I remember I watched that. I'd never seen it, and I watched it for the first time this last week, and I was sort of expecting it to be like a little rougher around the edges than it was, but it's like really like for this dude's first movie, and when like the campers, the main characters, pull up in the van to that gas station, and the way the shot, it's like this tracking shot where it pulls in and they all like get out in different ways that reveal them in different ways that creates like a tableau. And I'm like, this is really like a very just like what seems like a very instinctual like understanding of staging and that kind of stuff.
Absolutely, and that's the
yeah.
thing with him is I mean, he's done so much for the horror genre that despite what anybody thinks about his film work, I mean, he's done so much for horror. He gets it. And I think from Cabin Fever is the early days we had that time in his space to really get into that creative and that raw, where I think then he got into the scene of like being in the horror universe. You know, he's obviously hanging out with Tarantino. He's doing all these things. I don't think his space to write was there anymore. You know, so I'm kind of glad because I like the idea of somebody else writing and him running point because he gets it. Like, and that's the thing. He understands the genre and then film in general so much.
He is this true student of horror.
Yeah,
totally.
And he understands and has a love and appreciation for the genre that is honest and non-cynical, which is something that's cool and refreshing.
It is, and I wish, and I hope as time goes on, culture is a little kinder looking back at his films, because it does feel like a lot of his work has kind of been, maybe Thanksgiving will create, because it is getting probably the best received of his movies.
Absolutely.
Maybe it'll have like a reevaluation on some of his stuff, because to me it has been kind of a bummer, like having this guy's stuff seemingly just like thrown culturally in like the dustbin, you know, almost, where people are just like, whatever, don't give a shit. And I think he's more interesting than like people give him credit for.
Well, I think what's interesting about Eli Roth, there's the schlock horror, you know, which is and I've seen a lot of these movies. They're just like, if you go to Blockbuster and get the cheapest video. I mean, this is very dated reference, Blockbuster, but I'm just thinking because it's the same era that like Eli Roth, like Hostel and shit got out. It's like you find the deals with the like $5 DVDs. You can get like a giant bundle, like, you know, 10 movies for $20. Pick these used DVDs, and the DVDs would be like some movie you've never heard of from a director you've never heard of, but it has a cool title.
Yeah, those
movies would had cool artwork, cover artwork. Those movies would always be terrible, and there's a billion of those movies. I feel like Eli Roth has been sort of categorized
as one of those
in a lot of these schlock horror movies. Writers, and I think he borders on it, where he's like a little bit more elevated than those. And I will say with those schlock horror movies, there is like a subset of horror movie fans that I don't begrudge them. It's just that I'm not into it as much, where they're very into the gore and sort of a more superficial elements of horror, who are maybe attracted to some of Eli Roth's stuff, but also attracted to some of these other like kind of schlocky horror movies. And I think Eli Roth is a step above that. A step above those movies.
What do you mean by schlocky?
Schlocky, just like cheap.
Okay.
Cheap in both,
like corny.
Corny, yes.
Cheap in all respects.
Cheap in all respects, yes, exactly. Like sort of appealing to the most base sort of like
they like violence. Just
like, like a big budget movie can still be schlock if it's just garbage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it's just, you know, but schlock can also be fun, because garbage can be fun.
I still like schlock.
And and then part of my thing I was saying even has also just as much to do with the fact that I think, generally speaking, I want to appreciate that kind of stuff more. I don't know. I guess I like a lot of low,
really saturated.
I like a lot of low art stuff. But
like,
it's fun when you find that winner, but it's like there's so much of it that you're just like, who wants to spend that time?
Like I'll compare Eli Roth to Rob Zombie a little bit.
Okay.
And I think I love Eli. I think I like Eli Roth more than Rob Zombie.
I would agree. As a director, for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, as a musician,
I think
I'll give it to Rob Zombie.
I think Rob Zombie falls a little bit into that category that I was talking about with the kind of the just embracing the superficiality, which is its own subculture of horror fans and horror aficionados. But I think Eli Roth has an appreciation and love for that, but still tries to elevate it and do something different. And I don't know, maybe that's just me.
I would agree. I mean I think the best point of comparison would be to compare, and maybe this is unfair, but to compare The House with the Clock in its Walls to The Munsters. I would say would be like a pretty a decent point of comparison. But they both, Zombie also has his own charms, and
that's what I
don't want to dismiss
exactly.
him.
And I still love Rob Zombie for what he is.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds condescending, but I think it's similar. The reason I was comparing them is because they're both extremely passionate and love what they're doing,
mm-hmm.
and believe in it.
Do I definitely get it? I mean, don't they technically both belong to the quote unquote Splat Pack? That thing.
What is the fuck is the Splat Pack?
It was
the Rat Pack, but horror directors.
Basically, yeah. This is Wikipedia. The Splat Pack is a group of independent filmmakers who, since 2002, have directed, written, and produced horror films which are notable for their low budgets and extreme violence. This includes Alexandra Aja, director of High Tension, a lot of the Saw guys, Eli Roth, Rob Zombie, and a couple others.
It makes sense, yeah. I mean, I get it. It's like more extreme level horror, but like just mainstream guys.
Yeah.
But now I'm looking at it. James Wan is in the Splat Pack.
Yeah, well, he did the first Saw movie.
That makes total sense, yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like he's even the first. Not mine.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I think he's still technically considered a part of that.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
That's
and I think also like he's gone on to do, I don't say bigger things, but yeah, I guess bigger things in terms of budget,
Yeah, Aquaman 2 in theaters soon.
Oh yeah, he's fucking Aquaman.
Yeah.
I never saw it, but I think it's funny.
Do we want to talk about Thanksgiving spoilers? I'd almost be, or is there any other like later Thanksgiving stuff we want to talk about, or do we want to save those secrets?
Kind of like I said, it's like a slasher movie and it's fun. There's good kills, but it's better to just see it.
Yeah, not reveal.
I mean, at this point, this setup, I think that we did is enough spoilery stuff that, yeah, I think it'd be venture.
Watch the trailer and they give away one of the kills where the killer makes the girl's head a corn cob, basically.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Right after she's cleaning it with ears.
That is a pretty good one.
You're not supposed to clean your ears with. Oh god.
That's a great scene because he keeps like.
There's more to it, way more.
There's more to it, and there's like he's really good at building like the tension in terms of because in that scene there's not only is there the stuff with her ears, but before that there's all this stuff with her contacts, and that like there's no actual there's no eye-based injury that happens in the scene, but it
still makes you uncomfortable.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was an extreme close-up shot for all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So you're between the ears and everything. It's just wanted to set the tension of uncomfortable feel. Yeah, like that side view, super close, trying to put it in.
Yeah,
and to people who don't do that, that's extra.
Yeah,
he did a good job of that setup.
And you could hear the theater squirm.
Yeah,
and I appreciate that
when they showed the eyes.
Because when you just go for an extreme kill, it's like, okay, after a while you get it. But that build up and not necessarily having to do the eye damage, that was effective enough.
Yeah,
it was visceral, and you're just doing a minimal thing. It's great.
Well, he's a Fulci fan, and Fulci always doing all the I forget which of the zombie movies he did that has that fucking crazy ass one with like the wood that goes through that lady's eye.
I think that is still the most goriest movie that could exist.
Yeah,
because like I guess the two most vulnerable body parts that you don't want to fuck with are the eyes and the genitals.
Yeah.
And it is the most visceral.
Yeah.
His eyes are just so sensitive, and
Yeah. So to do the reverse audition and not make the focal point that you're doing,
that's
you know,
pretty
you're just doing the idea of it, which is cool because that's the world. Audition is what he made him want to make these kind of films.
Yeah.
So again, he understands film so much. That's why you get why he's pals with Tarantino. He's just geeks about film, and I think I appreciate that.
Yeah.
He's just more specified on horror, and I love that.
And
For that
apparently,
reason.
Chill Jude, our friend Alex, who projects over at the Vista, he was projecting Thanksgiving while Eli Roth was there, just for like a normal screening, and there was some mess ups, like the sound system. They were able to
The
figure
sound
it.
card, yeah. No, it was nothing related to the projection. It's really
Yeah.
those. It was like just a technical thing with the sound.
They were able to figure it out, but apparently he was like, I mean, he was clearly apparently frustrated that it was
Yeah.
happening,
It was the
but he was
Friday
very
night
chill
6 p.m.
and nice
screening.
about everything.
Yeah.
That's good.
And so
He seems like he would be.
yeah, he's really handsome, so why wouldn't he be? Let's just
Is
get out of the
he?
way. I think he's a hunk.
Well,
You see him walk out in the fucking Inglorious Bastards?
he ain't bad.
He's the bear Jew.
He is. Yeah.
I had no idea that was him. I didn't
Yeah.
realize, I didn't connect that until I saw the preview here. I was like, wait, that was him? Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
I'm gonna actually I'm gonna use this to share that little fun fact that I told you, Connor, about where Eli Roth, he was actually Howard Stern's like security guard.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And back in the day during private parts when Stern was filming that, he wanted to still do his morning show, so he would like live, I guess, on the soundstage. And Eli Roth would just literally have to sit outside his door, and like it was a cleared set. It would literally just be Stern and him. And every interaction they would have, he'd be seeing him writing, and Stern would be like, "Oh, what are you, a big movie guy or something?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm trying to be a screenwriter." And then it obviously turns out that that's what he was doing. Like, I wonder if even it was iterations of Cabin Fever, or who knows?
I think
That's
it
kinda
was
cool to say.
specifically Cabin Fever.
Yeah, it would make sense. Yeah.
Here, we're moving on to him as a general. Here's his cameo in Southland Tales, where he plays a guy on the toilet who gets
Nice.
shot.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Like a
that's
better
the
looking
hunk.
Sacha Baron Cohen.
I don't think it's controversial to say that he's a hunk.
Is it? I
so.
never thought of him
I
like.
think I've never heard the phrasing of it, but I mean, it's not like I'm not going to say no.
Heidi, what do you
It's
think?
one of those where you're just
Right, I'm sure he's a fine-looking man.
like, I just like, I don't think I've heard that many.
but like,
I don't know.
I wouldn't categorize him as like a sex symbol. You
I haven't
know?
thought about him
I
that much,
remember
as much.
as a teenage girl that watched the special features on the Cabin Fever DVD and thinking, oh, that guy was the director.
Mm.
There you go.
And I'm pretty
Mm.
sure.
I didn't watch those special features, so you know.
Oh, they're so fun. Well, I mean,
Men's-
when I watched it as a teen, that movie blew my mind.
Oh yeah. I'm sure that's because I saw it really early on too, and it was definitely one of those like weirdest thing I've seen category of movies
I had
that
to
you
show
put in.
all my friends, my 2 friends.
Yeah, that's how I got shown. It was one of those where it's like, no, you got to see this crazy, and I love that. I miss
In-
those days,
in
for sure.
in 2006, Men's Fitness magazine voted Roth most fit director.
Yeah, I
Really?
mean, because that was after
That was after-
what year?
Inglorious
2006.
It was after Inglorious.
Yeah,
so it
that's
was
like
after.
the rear.
Oh.
Your Glorious Bastards,
Which
was
makes sense. I mean,
released.
you're rolling on that. It'd be one thing if like he was like just released Hostel and it was like mid-aughts,
It was though, actually. It was Glorious Bastards
Oh,
is
was it?
2009. This is 2006.
2009.
Oh, you're right.
So he would have
Hey.
been. This would have been just after Cabin Fever and Hostel, and after his
for him.
incredible turn as gay party goer in Tales from the Crapper, the trauma
Wow.
movie.
That's probably what did it. I'm sure. Really put him over the edge. You know, Troma. They make those movies that are.
I just like, what was that category you mentioned, and what magazine was GQ?
That's the other thing, yeah, right.
Like, why is that an article?
Men's Fitness magazine voted Roth most fit director in their July 2006 issue. Citation needed. So.
Just could
That's just
hearsay.
That's some stoner on Wikipedia one night. She's like, no, this dude is the king.
I did it. I did it. I as the number one
That's
Eli
yeah,
Roth
that's-
apologist. I
was gonna say you
I
are
just-
on a deep apology level.
I'm just imagining somebody in Men's Fitness. Like, there's some sort of writer in Men's Fitness who's just like, who's been wanting to do this article for the longest time. and the editor is finally like, "Fuck, we need something.
Yeah.
We need
Yeah.
something to put in here."
You know what it is? It's probably like his cousin or something. Who's like trying to like get ahead in his job, and he's like, "I can get Eli Roth." Like that's that. They just connect it all together some weird side way. Everybody knows each other. It just doesn't feel like one of those.
This article.
It's early social media days too. Like, how do you get that exposure?
Well, let's run through his movies real quick. I'm sure some of these I'm almost there's 2 of these that I'm pretty positive, maybe even 3 of these I'm pretty positive I'm the only one here who's seen. But first, I think the movie maybe all of us have seen, or one of the 2, is Cabin Fever, which I just watched for the first time this week. I don't know if I would say I think it's great. I think it's like in the middle for me of his movies, but it is tons of fun how much it twists and turns. And I remember watching it and even knowing all the twists and turns that it took, still being like, oh, this is a lot of fun. Like, this would be, I wish I had seen this blind back when I was in high school.
As a teen, it's so good.
That's the thing. Maybe
yeah,
that's why we
great.
have that more resonating.
Yeah.
Because it was the blind, like I didn't.
You
know
have to
Eli
show
Roth
all
was
your
the-
friends because it's so wacky, and you're just like, what am I watching every 5 minutes?
Even it took me a minute because even when the Hostels came out, I didn't connect the 2. You know, I'm not
Mhm.
like it wasn't like the era where I wasn't paying attention to what filmmakers would do. You're like, oh, that's the guy who did that thing. It was one of those, at the time.
And it's got Sean from Boy Meets World, and as the lead.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, there's that he has a very it's impressive like watching that movie now, like how controlled the camera stuff is in that movie. And deliberate, very impressive in my opinion. And the joke at the end is really stupid but really funny. I don't want to get into it because I don't want to have to say the words involved with the joke.
You had to refresh my memory on that one yesterday, but yeah, no,
it is it's
a very 2000s joke.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, some of those era movies are very, very era apparent.
Do you guys have anything to say about Cabin Fever?
I mean, it's hardly without getting into, Yeah, you probably have more.
I don't want to give it away. It's
Pancakes.
so-
That was another one of my gifts I had on the
I remember
opening.
that.
Everyone's got to remember that part at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember that.
And
karmic retribution, which makes sense. I mean,
yeah, it's interesting. It also it gets pretty. The stuff with the like friend who they like put out in the shed is pretty fucked up too.
It is, yeah.
Like pretty upsetting. Like thinking about being.
Yeah, I guess she's the only one where she didn't really deserve what happens to her.
Yeah, no.
I don't remember. I just remember being introduced to them, and you're just like, oh, I don't like any of them. Okay.
Yeah. No, they're definitely douchebags. The one really douchey dude has has like the date that the Olsen twins turn 18 on his shirt.
Easily disliked.
Just in case.
It's such a good like ridiculous character.
Yeah.
Flourish.
And and I love like the dumb like Night of the Living Dead thing at the end where the guy, I mean this is a spoiler. This is a spoiler for like a 20-year-old movie, but when he's like, "Yeah, I made it. And then he doesn't make it. But yeah,
that's the thing. It is a 20-year-old movie. I mean,
I was just thinking that. It's like, oh god.
Like, I mean, I get spoilers on new things, but it's like, man, if you haven't caught Cabin Fever by now,
what are you doing?
It's also just.
I mean,
you need to push then to get it, but
it's
I
still
think
worth a watch to go in without knowing.
for
what's
sure.
going on.
Oh, for sure. No, I agree. His Hostel movies, I just group them together. Hostel 1 and 2, probably the movies probably the stuff he's the most famous for. Connor kind of with Saw, the movie is about these people in Europe paying to kill people and torture them to death. And I like these movies a lot. I think the second movie is his masterpiece, to be honest. I think they're a lot more adventurous than people give them credit for, like especially in the torture porn subgenre that became like a good became like a big like word or phrase used around there.
Yeah.
Where
I mean, the Saw and Hostel movies are what put that on the for sure on the map.
For sure, and I love the Saw movies, but in a lot of ways, the Saw movies are more serious than these. Like the Hostel movies, in some ways, are like they're much more. It's much more about the gonzo like gore and stuff than necessarily like feeling as like involved in it necessarily. I mean, there is that too. Like it is pretty rough. I'm not gonna lie and say there aren't.
You know, the one thing I'll say about his movies, I've seen, I mean, torture porn is definitely where I draw the line. Like there's limits we've gotten to, like the high tensions and, you know, martyrs, where you're like, all right, this is definitely, I get the art cinema thing that we were doing for the movement, but it's like the maximum I'm willing to go with it. Like the one thing I'll give Eli Roth is like he never makes me feel like the gross, I feel like a horrible human being watching it mode. And I appreciate that about him. He knows how to push the boundaries. Yeah, like surprisingly, like I kind of, after watching the second, because I mean, without giving many spoilers, basically it's like the first one is all dudes. The second is like all basically female. So initially I'm kind of going, oh man, this could get really bad very quickly. And, you know, I mean, he definitely pushes things, but the way he did it, another filmmaker in this genre that's in more of the schlocky territory would have done gross things. And I know it would have, you know, because it's easy to do in the genres and the tropes. But like the way he does it, I thought it was great. You know, he pulled it off where I was like, okay, fuck yeah. And I didn't expect that. Because I just watched the second one for the first time the other week.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of credit.
I'm a believer in cinematic justice and the values of cinematic justice. And I think for me, I mean, from what I remember of the Eli Roth movies, there's some degree of morality in Eli Roth's movies. And that sort of... I don't know, elevates them is the right word.
It's borderline like
it doesn't make me
comics,
feel terrible about myself.
Like it's borderline so far on the other side sometimes, where like it is a very it is very much so about like these are the bad people, these are the good people in certain ways, and you know, I mean, it's a little more complicated than that.
The way the second one ends, though, the way the main character kind of her arc all over, it's fantastic, and it's one of my favorite things to see in the ending scene. It's like it's just badass as fuck. Like it's great.
Yeah, the for people who've only seen the first one,
I've only seen the first one,
and the second one. What's interesting about the second one is whereas the first one is all from the point of view of the victims, the second one widens it out where you're seeing it's basically and structurally it's kind of the same movie.
Because you're even watching it going like the first half, you're like, this is exactly the setup with just a different cast.
Yeah.
Like, it literally starts where the last one ends. So you're kind of thinking, are we just going to completely rehash? And then right after that first act kind of tilts in, adventure's all over. And that was what was really cool.
Yeah, but I think even from the beginning, it shows you the other side. It shows the people bidding.
True. Like the actual hotel people and everything.
And we see the bad guys who end up torturing them, and maybe my favorite sequence in the movie where they're bidding online for who they're going to torture, almost like it's an eBay auction, where they're just like looking at it on their phones.
It's not a crazy spoiler, but like basically when they check into this hostel, they give their passports. The dude at the check-in, he goes and just scans the passports, crop it out, and that becomes the auction listing of the photo. And then it's like, who do you want? And then they all obviously judge based on like, you know, where they come from, their ethnicity, all the different things that price to start bid. But whereas like the last one, the first one, it kind of had a set price of like this. They do the big auction thing, and you see all the different sort of like these corporate white dudes on a golf course. Yeah, you know, where they're clearly at a business meeting, and he's like, "Oh, hang on, investor guys, I got this more important thing to do." Is he's like literally ready to swing his club. Like the setups are really good with that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
with the world building.
but it's definitely worth it's worth checking out. It's
Totally.
really good.
Absolutely.
It's like that good combination of it's that thing where but not only is its execution I think elevated above a lot of that kind of stuff, but its ideas are and like execution in terms of the script and like the themes are a little more elevated and get to some interesting places. Also some interesting like class stuff kind of genuinely to a certain degree.
Oh yeah.
And
Well, that helps aid to obviously our main what ends with the final character, which is really interesting. And it was a good way of kind of taking it.
Some good stuff about like macho dudes and like and that kind of and making fun of that kind of temperament.
Yeah.
And so a very like a very versatile movie that's doing a lot of stuff because it does have scenes that are like fucking like the midpoint scene is like rough if you're not used to that kind of stuff. But then there's
that's the
also
thing,
like
it still is a hostile movie, but it's not just garbage.
yeah. But
torture
then there's
porn.
all these
there's
like
actually a good
satire stuff.
Right.
Is it comparable to The Hills Have Eyes?
The remake.
Sure.
I haven't
When it comes
seen
to
the
like
remake.
torture porn kind of
I mean,
stuff.
that's a tough one because that doesn't do the torture porn quite as heavy.
Okay.
But I think it's more intense than that. So you've never seen the first Hostel either?
I can't
like,
recall
the
which
Hostel's
one
definitely-
I've seen, honestly.
Well,
It was a while
you know,
ago.
like this, the Saw movies are very like, here's the kill, but you're pretty straightforward with it. They don't linger on it. Whereas the Hostels, he'll
okay.
linger on the
Builds
gore
up.
factor. Well, even the torture part, like you're gonna hang on it for a few scenes. They're not doing quick cuts all the time. You're gonna
Yeah.
like linger, and that's where it kind of drives it
Oh.
more into like Takashi Mike and that with the like audition vibe where it kind of goes off the rails, and that's
Was it
the kind of
Takashi
stuff,
Miike on the, how do you pronounce it? I thought it was Takashi.
Me, I
Miike.
don't even know. It's probably.
He
I
has
say
a
it like
cameo in Hostel, doesn't he?
I think so. Maybe in the
super. I think
second
so,
one.
yeah.
There's a couple cameos in
Yeah.
the second one.
I could see the
Yeah.
second one being because the first is pretty linear.
But
Overall.
I know the dude who's the store owner in Thanksgiving is in the first Hostel movie as like a guy when the guy who becomes the main character breaks out and he's put on like a uniform to disguise himself as one of the torturers.
Oh yeah.
And he goes to
Yeah.
like the changing like the locker room and there's this other guy there who's just kind of shooting the shit like, hey, who are you torturing?
Oh, the dude is getting ready to like go and do his thing.
Yeah.
And like they're in like it's like the waiting area before you go kill.
Yeah.
It's like the most
Oh,
casual
yeah.
lounge, the casual lounge back. You're like, hey, bro.
okay, I did look it up. Takashi Miike is in the first Hostel.
Okay.
Okay.
Nice.
His character name is the Japanese Sadist.
Nice.
That sounds familiar.
Um
Like there may have been a Japanese torturer that while they're walking through the hallway. explains it.
I know that movie, that first one has one of my favorite cuts he's ever done in any movie where it's there's the two I think they're Japanese the two Asian girls who kind of like
Oh,
come
like,
and
I think they're sisters or
like
good friends.
sisters
Yeah.
and they get kind of split up and we're in like the torture dungeon and we see this really long shot of a guy walking up to her and then we see like a close up of him putting these like pliers like wire cutters around one of her toes and then he's about to like cut her toe off and then it does a match cut to her sister in like the lobby of the hostel using like a nail clipper to trim her toe. And that's such a fun squirm inducing cut.
Well, like Connor and I went to and I know you guys gone to some of them too, but the horror haunted houses, we went to Universal Horror Nights. And for some I think Hostel movies remind me so much of a haunted house.
Yeah.
It's like
I get that. Because they're a lot of static set pieces when it's just in the torture porn stuff where you're like, oh, that could be the room you go across next thing.
Oh, that's a room where this thing's happening to that guy.
It's like you can watch it and the it's all about the makeup effects.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And
Because there are a lot of close
It's not
shots.
about the
there's a lot of
cuts.
things
It's
that
not
count.
about the cinematography. It's just, and I don't know.
You're-
There's something cool about that.
Well, who here? I know, Paul, you've seen Green Inferno because you saw it with me, but I'm guessing you don't remember it too well.
I don't remember a lot of it. I remember a little bit of it.
And then, what about his other movies? Has anyone seen Knock Knock or Death Wish?
I want to check it out, but
or
Death Wish sounds familiar.
are
it was
the
a remake. Yeah, the remake recent, 2018 or something, or.
are the
I didn't even know there was a remake until Connor a few days ago. You told me there was a remake of Death Wish.
are the mouth with
Oh,
the
never
cock, the house with the
The mouth with
What?
the cock in it.
the house with the cock in its balls, the house with the clock in its walls, is the other one. Let's look at, like, okay, so yeah, I have a couple of thoughts on these, and people can chime in if they've seen them. Green Inferno, it's probably my least favorite, because other than being a showcase of gore, there isn't a lot going on. I would say even on like a visual level, he's shooting it very, more like shaky cam and documentary style.
It's his love letter to cannibal Holocaust.
No, for sure.
Right, yeah.
And so it doesn't have quite the same, like, I think, precision as like his stuff does that I really like. The premise is funny, that it's about these like kids who go to the jungle to be like, we can't like disturb these tribes that no one's interacted with, and then they crash their plane and get ripped apart by them. I like the sequence where after the big midpoint sequence where a guy gets like ripped apart, essentially, where it just shows very calmly all the people in the village like preparing the pieces of the guy.
But it's shot from the point of view of these people, the people who crash, right? The guy say, I would have loved the switch. Give me the point of view of these people who are like plane crashes on us. We have no idea what this is. And then they wreak havoc that way. I'd rather be more to seeing that point of view.
Yeah.
Well, that's what was interesting about. I don't want to go into Cannibal Holocaust too much because I don't know. Brian, have you seen Cannibal Holocaust? No, kind of.
I just don't have a need to see it. I just, it's
That's
one of those where it's like I too much. The animal stuff is enough to be like, dude, I'm good. And then it's just there's certain movies in the horror genre.
But I will say, as for like an understanding and context or whatever, Cannibal Holocaust is split into two parts, and I think Cannibal Holocaust is a great movie. First part is we're following the crew, and it's like a found footage movie of the crew, just sort of showing how like awful almost and how primitive these cannibals are. And then they got hunted down by the cannibals and eaten, whatever. Then the second part, we see more footage that's showing that they sort of orchestrated a lot of these things to show that the cannibals were awful. And they sort of we learned then in the second half that they sort of got what was coming to them.
Okay.
Right.
Which was interesting. And I think that made it.
I've read
it was
enough about it. I just haven't watched it. I mean,
it's fine. I don't want to tell anybody they need to watch Cannibal Holocaust.
I think that's just where I've been
because it's a movie that is despicable in many ways.
Well, it's like a Serbian film. I'm like, great, dude. Like, I do not. There's just no need for this.
I think it's better.
My eyes.
I think it's better than a Serbian film, and that I think a Serbian film was more of just.
It was the most self-serving, can be cool filmmaking I've ever seen.
Not to defend a Serbian film, but
I don't even want to do that one. But I just, to me, I'm sorry, that's just garbage.
I think a Serbian film was just like, let's make it as
well. there's
as
a
gross as I can think of.
there's a political reason. It was like a political thing. It had to do with like the censorship in that country. So like that's all I'm going to say is that about it. I'm just saying that
this is a long one.
we could move on from that.
It's just one. I think it's a good call.
Knock Knock, I think, is also one of his Eli Roth's weaker movies, but it's fun how restrained it is. It's an R-rated movie, but there's no gore. It's just a pure like erotic thriller. And there's a really great sequence. Keanu gives a really good performance. It's Ana de Armas and Lorenza Izzo as these two girls who show up at his house, kind of being like, hey, we're like lost or whatever, and they sort of seduce him and then spend like a weekend essentially like emotionally and mentally fucking with him. And there's a great sequence towards the middle where he's like in the living room and he'll be like sitting somewhere and they like kind of get close to him and get too close where he's uncomfortable, and then he'll move to a different place in the living room and sit down and continue the conversation, and it's this long just conversation of him getting slowly more and more uncomfortable and like having to reposition himself every couple of minutes to get away from them. But it's a fun movie. Let's see.
Save Cannibal Holocaust. The animal deaths, despicable animal deaths, unfortunately did make it a better movie. That's all I'll say.
Of Cannibal Holocaust?
Cannibal Holocaust, the director
It's about
was
Nazis?
No.
Oh.
No, there's no Nazis.
It's using Holocaust in the general sense of the term.
Holocaust about
Yeah,
Nazis?
In the general sense.
Oh.
But
if these cannibals were to have such a thing to the tourists, essentially,
it was so effective in disgusting people that the director was arrested for murder.
They thought it was real, like Blair Witch.
They thought it was real.
Was
and
it?
a lot of that was due, I think, to the real animal deaths, because it was juxtaposed with the.
Oh.
Well, we can relitigate this another time. I want to move on.
Fuck it.
What's
I
Eli
am
Roth?
recommending Cannibal Holocaust. Everyone should see Cannibal Holocaust.
Eli
because
Roth.
It is a great film.
Eli in it?
Nope, it
season.
was made decades ago.
Eli Roth's a very big fan of Cannibal Holocaust.
It's one of his favorite movies. It might be his favorite movie of all time, actually. To be honest.
Sure.
But he made his Death Wish remake, which is not as bad as you would think it would be. It's largely bland more than anything.
I think that's what I remember hearing about it.
But hey, Bruce Willis, he's engaged. He actually is like clearly knows what
he showed up willing to do the part.
Yeah, exactly. He knows his lines before he maybe he doesn't know his lines before he comes to set, but he certainly knows what the scene he's doing is.
his attitude is like, I'm gonna do this. He's not pulling the Kevin Smith move.
Yeah.
Basically.
And
I just love the caveat for that. He may not know what lines he's saying before he comes on set.
but you know what I mean? Like he's clearly he's engaging with it, and he's not just totally.
And I guess if you were going to cast an actor for a Death Wish remake, at least 5 years ago, it would be.
Yeah,
that's a great casting. Like I said, really, it was down to him of what roles, because that was notorious for years. It was just what roles he wanted to be in versus not. It was just that. That's the way it was.
And it's got.
He showed up for most. There was a lot he showed up for, obviously.
And it's got Vincent D'Onofrio plays Bruce Willis's brother. Dean Norris, Hank Schrader from Breaking Bad, is the cop investigating him. And
that's good casting, actually.
It is. And there's a couple of genuinely great like tension and gore scenes. The home invasion that happens at the beginning, which is thankfully way less rapey than the original, is genuinely
that's the whole point of the original.
Yeah. The opening tension, the opening like home invasion scene is really like tense, and the way he stages it, where it's these long shots of like seeing the people in the house and like moving around and just sort of slowly panning over to the window where we're seeing the shadow of the people like approaching. And yeah, but not a huge. I think my biggest recommendation in terms of lesser known Eli Roth movies is The House with the Clock on Its Walls, which I think is pretty terrific. Barring some bad toilet humor and some questionable third act CGI. You got Kyle MacLachlan as a bad guy. Jack Black and Cate Blanchett as the two
that.
leads, basically.
What year was this?
This was 2019. It's not too long ago.
Okay, so new. Okay,
It was produced by
That's
Amblin.
It's a very giallo sounding name.
The House with the Clock
Yeah,
on Its Walls.
totally, absolutely,
Much like
absolutely.
the house with the laughing windows.
Yeah.
Yeah,
something
no,
like that.
definitely is a yellow name. Yeah.
Jack Black and Cate Blanchett are very Team Rocket from Pokemon coded, and that Jack Black and my vibe on them is it's a gay and a lesbian, and they're raising this kid, and it's sort of like it's like if Harry Potter, instead of going to a school, and it's in America, he was like an orphan and he went to go live with his weird uncle, and that's who taught him magic. And my favorite thing about it is that, unlike the very kind of I'm not trying to talk shit about Harry Potter necessarily, but like Harry Potter's version of magic is very like stripped of like actual Wiccan and pagan stuff, it's much more just like
It's just fun.
presto digitatus, and that like does like a thing. The magic in this movie is very like in line with like very satanic and weird and like dark magic
that.
stuff.
Oh, ritually.
Yeah,
That's cool.
like it's actual cool, like kind of real occult stuff, which is
That's
pretty
probably
fun.
Sacrifice.
Of the ones you've talked about, that's probably the most interesting one.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I would genuinely say that, like, out of his 8 movies, the 3 that I would say I'm kind of whatever on are Green Inferno, Knock Knock, and Death Wish. But then all 5 of the other ones. But I think specifically Hostel 2, House with Clock in Its Walls, and now Thanksgiving are his like 3 very like really kind of great movies.
Yeah.
I want to see American Hogwarts.
Yeah.
I want to see like American Hogwarts is like a school with a bunch of trailers, and there's an armed officer with a gun.
Well,
Sure.
That'd be great.
Sure.
unless anybody has something else they want to say about Mr. Eli Roth, I think it's time.
I'll just say I'm happy he exists in the horror world, and there's no bigger fan. He's definitely the Tarantino of the horror world. I feel like, I'm just his fandom.
You go,
Yeah.
girl.
He loves it. Yeah.
I'd say that I don't think he's as talented as Tarantino. But
I'm not even talking about filmmaking. I'm talking about from film love. They decided
that's
like
true.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're right.
Yeah,
He's
no,
a
I'm
curator of horror.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm
Absolutely.
glad he's out there, excited to see what he does next. I
yeah.
will let's give him a little applause. I'll be there.
Applause to Eli Roth.
Good job, Eli.
You did it.
Good job. And Thanksgiving.
I
we'll
love
see it.
Thanksgiving very much.
Yeah, it's a
I
lot
thought
of
it
fun.
was one of the best slashers I've seen in a very long time.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But let's.
Oh, it's the game time.
Connor's
Game
Wicked
time.
Games, sponsored by Chris Isaac. Every week, like
I did
Jigsaw,
surprisingly well last time.
I like to
usually
play a little
lose.
game. Today we have the Thanksgiving Feast presented by Eli Roth. I'm borrowing its structure from I'm kind of remixing a couple of structures I've used previously. There's 3 rounds. First round, you're going to get points. Second round, each round's shorter than the last. Second round, you're going to get a multiplier for those points. And last round is going to be a Final Jeopardy style, like you can wager points.
Okay. It's complicated.
We'll walk it through. First round
Each
is
round sounds segmented. Yeah.
yeah. First round, Thanksgiving. I'm going to describe a movie set at Thanksgiving, or at least a major scene set at Thanksgiving. I'll start with the year, genre, people involved. I might go into the description. Whoever guesses the movie first, just shout it out, gets 2 points. Then everyone gets a chance to answer yes or no on whether the movie was released near Thanksgiving, meaning October 15th through January 15th. And you get a point for each of those. And those everyone gets a chance to say yes or no.
I can't even think of a movie released in about Thanksgiving.
Well,
Except Thanksgiving and Thanksgiving.
Dang it, you got mine.
well, first up.
It's the only one I know.
So shout out the title once you know it. Whoever shouts it out first gets 2 points. This is a 1987 comedy film, written, directed, and produced by John Hughes.
Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
All right, I'm gonna give you guys both half
Good,
points
both
for
of
that.
them. That's fine.
And that is indeed Planes, Trains, and
Breakfast Club.
Automobiles.
That's
And
literally, I think, the most famous in my brain.
that's why I did it first.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving
Funniest
movies.
one.
Yeah, it's great.
Good set the template.
And I think that was one that was released because I think that's why it became such kind of the annual thing.
You know,
not
it's
just
funny.
thematically, but
The reason I know is I was talking to Brian, our friend Brian, and he was telling me that the only other Thanksgiving movie he knew was Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Well, I got a bunch here, so
Exactly,
we're gonna learn.
I was thinking it was a Christmas movie. There's a lot of ways it was very Christmassy, but I just in my brain it registered as a Christmas movie that they were going home to Christmas, not Thanksgiving. It's just my memory was failing me.
Well, and so can everybody answer yes or no? Was this released near Thanksgiving?
I'm gonna say yes.
Everyone gets a point. It was released pretty much right at Thanksgiving, November 25th. All right, next up, we have, shout out when you know it, a 1993 supernatural black comedy film directed by Barry Sonnenfeld, based on characters by Charles Adams, starring Angelica Houston, Raul Julia, Christopher Lloyd.
Oh, Addams Family.
Oh shit! Yeah, he's right.
Addams Family Values.
Okay, 2 points to Paul.
There you go. That made me.
Well, it was on the fence, you know. There's like a major sequence where they cast Wednesday as Pocahontas in the Thanksgiving play at the camp or whatever.
I remember that.
Oh, in the camp.
Yeah. And was that released?
Raul Julia, he acts through his eyes very much, and the first Addams Family movie, they had to take a break from production because he burst his eyes.
Oh,
the
crazy.
veins in his
Like a
eyes
vessel.
burst because he just goes like this.
I could see that. Yeah.
Rest in peace, Raul Julia.
Was
You're
this
great as M. Bison?
Hell yeah.
was this released near Thanksgiving?
I'm
gonna
gonna
say
guess,
yeah.
No.
I'm gonna say no this time.
Let's see.
I think this was a summer release.
Brian, you got it. This was also released almost right at
Oh.
Thanksgiving, November
I
19th.
just felt like I
I was
remember
wrong.
around this time of year. Yeah.
All
I
right.
was too, I don't remember.
Next up, a 2002 superhero film directed by Sam Raimi.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Oh,
It's Brian.
Spider-Man.
That is
I knew
indeed.
it. What do you mean?
I know.
And then was that released
2002 was the giveaway.
near Thanksgiving?
I'm guessing no
I-
for that one.
Yeah, I mean,
Is-
'cause
is-
Summer.
it-
No.
I remember. No, I remember it being like Christmas.
You think it was Christmas?
Really?
I could have sworn I remember because I remember seeing it in the theater that first.
Yeah, I saw it in theater, but I don't remember.
I'm
the
still
season.
saying no because it just
I don't know, I just remember
seems
the time of year.
like such a summer release type movie.
Paul and Heidi were right. Yeah, it is. It was a May 3rd.
I remember wrong.
That's before summer,
Yep.
Yeah.
but it's whatever.
We didn't have coats in Chicago that day.
That's a big tell, actually. As a New Englander with the same thing, where it's like oh, it's like 58. You can open the windows today. You know, you get used to that kind of.
Next up is a 1978 concert documentary film directed by Martin Scorsese, produced by Robbie Robertson, starring.
It was a rolling.
It's a musical.
Starring the members of the band.
Oh, Blues Brothers. Blues Brothers? No.
Wait, I got shine a
what
light,
year?
shine a light, shine a light.
Nope, not
Oh,
yet.
year.
Damn, not that.
Beginning with a title card saying this film should be played loud. The concert documentary covered the band's influences and careers, and specifically their final performance on Thanksgiving Day of 1976, I believe.
Oh. Is it the Rolling? Is it the Rolling Stones? Is the band?
No, the band is the band.
Oh, the band. The band.
Yeah.
The band.
Yeah, the band that's called the band.
This is
Is
great.
everyone
I
giving
know
up on
the
this
band.
one?
Yeah.
No, I'm kind of got it. I think I got it.
Okay.
Because I'm thinking about like all this stuff. I thought he did a bunch of them because that was obviously the last one he did. I think it's the last waltz.
That is correct. It is the last
Whoa.
waltz.
Dude, I forgot all those early stuff he did. He did a lot of those random things like that.
Here he comes. All right, why don't you guys go ahead and answer? Was the last waltz released near Thanksgiving? Yes or no?
I'm just gonna say yes on all my answers.
I'm so bad.
Yes.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Is this that Martin Scorsese movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm gonna guess yes.
So it's yes, yes, and yes. Yeses all around. You are all wrong. It was released in
no.
April.
Yep. I'm just saying yes on all these. It's a Thanksgiving themed show.
Yeah,
and
50-50.
maybe I'm gonna hope it works.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hope it works like 60-40. I'm hoping for. You know, there's a little more favor for the Thanksgiving.
What
Alright.
was the band?
We'll see.
The band had one song that was famous.
It was called The Song.
The song, yeah.
In 2011, this is a comedy film directed by Dennis Dugan, written by Adam Sandler, starring Adam Sandler, Katie Holmes, and Al Pacino.
Oh, Jack and Jill.
Oh,
Yeah, Paul got it.
Jack
Oh,
and
of
Jill.
course.
Ugh.
In which she comes home for the holidays. She being Jill, also played
This
by
is a
Adam
great
Sandler.
movie.
And was
It was
that
the-
released near Thanksgiving?
I'm gonna
Yes.
guess.
Yes.
I'm going yes all the way.
I'm going no.
The yeses have it. It was released
Oh, no.
November 12th.
I've gotten my Jack and Jill history wrong.
All right.
I definitely do not. I have not seen that at all.
I've seen
by
it.
Any stretch of imagination.
Got the
It's-
Dunkachino
it's
scene.
One of the it's one of the worst movies. Although I will say
I
the
saw Red Letter
Dunkachino
Media talk about
scene
it.
is funny
Yeah.
because that's after it. Al Pacino is just like burn this.
Yeah.
I never want to see.
Yeah.
I never want this to see the light of day.
Like I think even if I was a Pacino completist or something, I would just skip. I think.
Because
Like
it's
I'd only do it in like a group, or like if we were doing it on a Monday group, possibly.
It's just because the director, like, and Adam Sandler knows this is just absolute shit. And
Yeah.
we, for some reason, got Al Pacino, who's like one of the greatest actors, to do this.
He's free.
They were probably. It was probably like something happened where like the free vacation mentality kicked in or something, where it's like, look, just come show for these scenes.
Oh, they
real
gave him a lot of
quick.
money. The movie
I'm
had
sure,
a big budget.
Sure.
Very big
Yeah.
budget. Sorry, Connor. You look like you're pained.
This 1997 drama film, directed by Ang Lee, based on the book by Rick Moody, starring Kevin Kline,
Incredible Hulk.
Joan Allen, Toby Maguire, Christina Ricci, Elijah Wood, Sigourney Weaver.
What?
Any
movie is
guesses?
this?
It sounds familiar. God, I wonder if it's that
Not Seabiscuit.
movie that went from black and white to color. What was that one?
Pleasantville?
Fools. Pleasantville.
It's not.
No, it's not that okay.
In 1973, two families in an affluent Connecticut suburb experiment with adultery and substance abuse over one Thanksgiving weekend.
Eyes wide shut.
Is everyone giving up on this
Watch
one?
This is a 5-year-old.
I'm giving up.
This is The Ice Storm.
Okay, so shit.
I have never seen that movie.
I've never heard of that movie.
It's not the most obscure Ang Lee movie or anything, but and was this
It's Ang Lee, so how obscure?
That's the thing.
can
I
it
don't know.
be?
I just don't know him that well. Obviously, clearly.
when
I
was
like some of his movies.
and was this released near Thanksgiving?
Yes.
The fuck do I know? It's
Yeah.
Ang Lee. I'm gonna guess. Sure, I'll guess yes.
You're all wrong. This is a
Oh,
September
no.
Who'd
release.
thought?
Premiered in May and released in September.
Why was it so far apart?
Because it was like a festival premiere.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
All right, we got a couple more of these left. Next up is a 1995 family comedy drama directed by Jodie Foster, starring Holly Hunter, Robert Downey Jr., Anne Bancroft, Dylan McDermott, Claire Danes.
Oh, these are big names.
These are big
Yeah.
names.
I only know Iron Man.
Claudia Larson is a single mother who's just been fired from her job. She flies from Chicago to spend Thanksgiving at the Baltimore home of her parents, Adele and Henry, while her only child decides to stay home and spend the holiday with her boyfriend.
Home Alone. No, never mind.
Any guesses?
I don't know. Home for the Holidays. If it's
Yep,
what I'm thinking about.
that is.
Shit.
Oh, you got it.
It is
It's
indeed.
It's like that was the era I was definitely watching because I think it was like an early. That was in '90s, was it or something?
95. Yep.
Okay, I remember that era, just kind of watching those cheesier,
And was this
holiday
released
movies.
near Thanksgiving?
Yep, gonna stick with my
Yes.
plan.
I will say yes.
Yes, it was. It was an early November release.
You can't
That
release
makes
that movie.
makes super. Yeah, that's
anything,
like
any other time.
It's a kids' holiday movie.
Yeah.
even though remember Violent Night, didn't that come out like I forget exactly, but didn't it come out after or not right around Christmas correctly or
Something.
when that
Maybe.
originally came out in the theater? Remember?
No, it came out December 2nd.
Didn't it?
It premiered
You
in
know what it was?
October.
Oh, that's what it was. It had a limited, I think, release, but they didn't do the digital until like July, the following July.
Oh, okay.
So, because it made no sense. I remember seeing the release being like, why would you hype that? And I think they ended up doing the physical release for this year, but
Next up, we got a 2005 action film directed by John Singleton, starring Mark Wahlberg, Tyrese Gibson, Andre Benjamin, and Garrett Hedlund, along with Terrence Howard and Chiwetel
Hustle and
Ejiofor.
Flow.
Nope.
Fuck.
An elderly woman, Evelyn
We
Mercer,
made a zoo.
is murdered at a convenience store in Highland Park, Michigan. When a robbery occurs, it results in the death of the store clerk, and Evelyn was left as the one and only witness. The incident brings her 4 adoptive sons back home to Detroit, Michigan.
4 brothers. 4 brothers.
4 brothers. That is indeed.
Oh my
As
god.
soon as you
So
said
many
that,
brothers.
I didn't
definitely
know Marky
connected them.
Mark was in that. Oh.
That was
I didn't
another
know
earlier
that.
one, I remember.
I knew Marky Mark wasn't Hustle and Flow, but it was close.
But he'd been out for a while. He'd been doing it for a while.
And was this released near Thanksgiving?
I'm just keeping my plans. Yes.
No.
Paul?
I'm gonna say no.
The no's have it. This was an August release, baby. Late
Weird.
summer.
I just have no concept of release dates, I think, at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so we just see so many movies that I don't remember anything
I
anymore.
just remember Terrence Howard.
Is it
I don't know anything else about Terrence Howard.
as a
What else has Terrence
Sirens.
Howard been in recently? He was an Iron Man.
that was a while ago at this point. And
I know not recently, but like, what else is he? I don't know.
What is the name of this 1993 comedy film directed by Steve Rash, starring Pauly Shore, Carla Gugino, and Tiffany Amber Thiessen?
Wait, can you repeat that? I actually
No!
Something happened with
18-year-old Rebecca Warner moves from her small South Dakota farm town to attend college at the fictional University of Los Angeles. I don't know why they clarify that in the Wikipedia description. On her first day, she and her parents Walter and Connie meet Fred Crawl Weasel, played by Pauly Shore, resident advisor of.
Yeah, I'm sure, but he does no. But that's a bit. I think he does. That's not a giveaway. The movie, I don't think. I'm just thinking of it. Maybe. I'm going in a couple different, but it could be. I forget the years though.
After they leave, the clash of cultures causes Becca to consider returning home, but Crawl convinced her to give the college a chance. She begins to acclimate. She invites Crawl to spend the Thanksgiving break with her family back home. Any guesses?
Oh, son-in-law.
It is indeed son-in-law. The motion.
I know my Pauly Shore.
Yeah,
I don't. I was thinking like Encino Man. I was trying to hear something that made me
when
thought
he's
of
in a
it.
big bubble, the dome movie.
The biodome. That's the
Biodome.
one I was thinking too.
Yeah, you're not named Pauly for nothing.
That's right.
And was this released near Thanksgiving?
I'm gonna say no.
I'm saying yes. That's what I do.
No.
Oh, yes.
No's have it. And last one of these. This one I'll be really surprised. This is the one that I've never heard of. I always it's a 1986 psychological thriller film directed by Sidney Lumet, starring Jane Fonda, Jeff Bridges, and name Raul Julia.
Sidney Lumet is very big names.
Yeah.
I just can't place it.
Alexandra Sternenberg, a washed-up alcoholic actress who performs with the stage name Vivica Van Loren, wakes up on Thanksgiving 1986 next to the bloodied corpse of a sleazy photographer named Bobby Korshaff in his Los Angeles loft. Any guesses?
What do I know?
No. Doesn't sound familiar at all.
St. Elmo's Fire.
This is The Morning After. A movie which I had never heard of.
I have not seen.
I've
heard of it.
Sure.
And was this released near Thanksgiving?
Fuck do I know? I'm gonna guess yes.
I've lost enough that I'm just gonna say keep my same yes.
I say no.
The yeses have it this time. It was released on Christmas.
I had to hit one.
Actually. All right. Next round. These are some multiple choice Eli Roth trivia questions. Brian,
oh, goodness.
Brian, you've got 14 points. Paul 13. Heidi 6. How many correct guesses you?
Give me Spider-Man.
You get here. Yeah, that's true. I didn't give you that one, but you're too slow. Sorry.
I knew it when you said 2002. So I just didn't say it out loud.
The more you get right, the bigger multiplier you get. So if you get one or two right, you'll get kind of a lower. If you get all of them right, you'll get a really big multiplier. First off, and I think what we'll do here is I will we'll start. I'll ask you guys individually for your answer. So I'm gonna start this one with Brian, and then we'll go to Paul, then Heidi. Which major American director did Eli Roth produce content for in the late 90s? Peter Bogdanovich, Francis Ford Coppola, David Lynch, or Steven Spielberg?
I think Spielberg.
Paul?
I'm going to get Spielberg as well.
Heidi?
I guess Lynch.
Heidi got it. It was indeed.
Oh my goodness.
Lynch. He produced stuff for his website specifically.
No kidding. I didn't know that.
And I think originally Lynch was going to be a producer on Cabin Fever and might have been involved with getting it made.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Next up, this one will start. Paul, you get to answer first. Which 2010s jukebox musical film does Eli Roth cameo in? Jersey Boys, Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again, Rock of Ages, or Sing?
Fuck, do I know? I'm gonna guess, Rock of Ages.
Heidi?
What were the options? Rock May just sing.
Mamma Mia 2 and Jersey Boys.
Me too. I'm gonna guess Jersey Boys.
Brian?
That one kind of stuck out. It stuck out to me too. Jersey Boys.
Paul
I don't know
got
why.
it. It was Rock of Ages.
Rock
Oh.
of Ages.
I don't
Um,
even remember that.
that was the
I never saw it, but I knew it was like, you know,
Pissed me off at the end because the main guy
It was
just makes
supposed to
out
be
with the
like-
groupie and then goes back to the girl. It's very
it
annoying.
was
to
like,
me when it-
like what year was Rock of Ages again?
2010s.
Yeah, so it was like right
I saw it in
after
theaters.
Inglorious Bastards.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Which 2010s TV show rebooted as a movie did Eli Roth co-produce? The A-Team, Baywatch, Chips, or Dark Shadows? And Heidi, you can answer first.
Dark Shadows.
Brian?
Sure, Dark Shadows.
Paul.
I'm not gonna say Dark Shadows because that was a Tim Burton movie, and Tim Burton probably wants nothing to do.
Oh, that was the
with Eli
vampire
Roth.
one. Dang it.
I didn't know.
Wait,
Yeah,
you
I
said
just-
what was the other ones?
A-Team,
That'd be
Baywatch,
funny
and
if you-
Chips.
I'm gonna change mine to Baywatch.
I'm gonna go with Baywatch.
Can we change?
Yeah. Are we locked in once we say the first thing?
Well, I think you're locked in once the next person has guessed.
Copy.
So technically, Brian, you guessed Baywatch before Paul did, so you can change, but Heidi can't. I'm sorry.
Alright, whatever.
I was giving my reasoning.
Oh, I
though.
see. Oh, yeah.
That is
That's
that
the
is
thing I
true. It should be debatable, I think, potentially, because it is in fact Baywatch. I will. I don't know.
It's fine.
I'll
Give the points to
Yeah,
everyone.
I don't really care.
Give it to. I want everyone to have the points.
All right. Is that what you were gonna change your answer to, Heidi? Baywatch.
Yes.
Okay. Well, then I'll give it to you as well because Paul is being so gracious.
I'm such a good man.
Brian, you can start with this one. Which non-English language can Eli Roth speak? French, Italian, both, or neither?
I feel like he's kind of well read. I'm gonna say both.
Paul?
I'm gonna say neither.
Heidi?
I just want it to be like a secret, kind of like that's the thing he has.
I know it's probably not neither, but I
Say
want to guess
Italian.
neither.
Brian's right. It is both, and he knows some Russian, apparently, as well.
Oh
I just-
goodness.
It just feels like it because I mean, even just the films he likes to go international. So I don't know. I feel
I
like that's
just-
a
I love the scene
Does
in
make sense.
Glorious Bastards.
yeah.
It's like, I know,
Well, that's the thing. Yeah.
I know the most Italian,
Yeah.
second most
Yeah.
Italian.
And then the last one here, on an episode of Larry King, which movie did Eli Roth not say was one of his 5 favorite horror movies? The Exorcist, The Shining, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or Zombie 2? Paul?
I'm gonna guess The Exorcist.
Heidi?
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Brian?
We live The Shining.
You guys all got it wrong. It was Zombie 2. The other...
Wow.
I don't know. That was too deep of one. Where I'm like, maybe that's
Yeah,
just,
it's
like
like-
the niche that he was.
I know it's a
That's
movie he
like-
loves, but it was not one of the ones. He listed it as his 5:
No, I get what you're
Exorcist,
saying, yeah.
Shining, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Evil Dead, and, of course, Cannibal Holocaust.
The other thing I can see all the like them all just they're big ones. Then he's got the niche ones are more the Cannibal Holocaust and one of those. But
Let me do... Brian, you are now at 28 points. Paul, you
Very
are
nice.
at 20 points, and Heidi,
Oh.
you are at 9 points.
Woo!
And so now
Brian is pulling away with this.
I don't know though. It can all fall apart quickly.
wager time. I'll tell you guys the category of the question. You guys have to wager, again, 28 for Brian, 20 for Paul, 9 for Heidi. How many of your points you want to wager? I'll say this, if you wager all of them and you get 0, you don't get a medal. So maybe keep one just in case. And yeah, it's just normal Jeopardy rules. And so I'm going to tell you the name of the category. Then you guys secretly decide how many points you want to wager. Then I'm going to give you the question. You guys think of your answer. Once everyone's thought of it, we'll go around and share. And don't weasel out. Like if you're like, I'm going to wager this many. And then when you realize you don't know the question, you're like, oh, actually, I do this. You know.
Ryan Bialik is not my Jeopardy host.
It's me. The category.
Connor Crews.
The category is cannibalism. And so think of how many points you want to wager. I'm going to give everyone a second. Everyone should have their amount of points locked in. All right. In how many of Eli Roth's 8 films is cannibalism depicted? And what I specifically mean is a human being prepared to be eaten.
Okay. I was wondering.
Does everyone have their number locked in?
I thought we were doing our how many points were.
You should have done that already, and now you have to
yeah,
guess how many.
Internally.
How many?
Okay. It's just on good faith.
Yeah.
Okay. I have
Your
an
guess.
answer for both.
Are you
Yeah,
guys
I'm good on mine.
Heidi?
Mhm.
You're good.
Mhm.
All right, let's go around. Let's start with Brian. How many of your points did you wager?
8.
8 of your points. And how many movies did you guess?
I said 3.
Paul, how many points did you wager?
I was gonna. Okay, well I can't change now, but I was gonna say 9, and I was gonna say 3 as well.
All right. You shouldn't change. That's the whole point. Heidi,
That's what it is.
what's your
I can't
wager and
change.
guess?
My wager is 8.
Okay.
My guess is 2.
Unfortunately, the other 2 are right. It is 3 of his films. Obviously, the most obvious being Green Inferno. Thanksgiving has a sequence towards the end of the film.
Remember that?
And there is a brief moment in the second Hostel where I believe the director of the Cannibal Holocaust has a cameo where they're like going past all these rooms where you see like people torturing in different ways.
Oh yeah.
And he's in like this really fancy room preparing a feast out of someone's body.
Oh, is that him?
I'm pretty sure it
No
is.
kidding.
I could be
Wow,
wrong,
that's
but
it's a cool sequence actually. 'Cause it's actually very similar to the way it played out in Thanksgiving. Funnily enough.
Because I knew of the 2, and I was like, I'll guess one more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
But you
So
guys already guessed it.
so no standing changes, but everyone got a medal. Brian a gold medal, Paul silver, Heidi a bronze, which is better than last time where you didn't get
Which was
anything.
no medal.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Brian. You have won.
I think this is my first gold ever though.
This is your
I've done a
third
bunch of them
gold.
now. Is it really?
Damn.
Yeah, no, your average isn't too. Your average is actually above a silver at this point now.
Damn.
I think, or it could be like right at, like you've
I got
definitely.
my first medal last time.
I think so. I think you're right.
I think I got a gold last time.
I think you did.
Out of nowhere.
But let's go to.
Who are these people in your background?
His brothers.
Frasier time. It's time to talk about the newest
Oh, yeah.
episode of Frasier.
Forgot about this. I forgot about this segment.
Yeah, I always forget until it happens.
So,
And I was
yeah.
like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
okay.
it's time for Connor to talk about Frasier.
It's Frasier. It's
Everyone loves Frasier.
It's Frasier.
I would have watched it, but my TV show buddy says it's too woke.
You should stop being friends with them. like,
What is that? I'm curious what that means. I didn't expect.
Wait, how is Frasier
It's
woke?
just rumored to be. I have no idea. I've never seen it.
Leslie, I mean,
Now I gotta watch it. But
Kelsey
thank you. Actually,
Gra-
that was the push I needed.
There's a black woman on
Kelsey
it, so that
Grammer
might
is
be.
Like a very,
Oh, is that what
that's
happened?
Kelsey Grammer is like a conservative fucker.
I mean,
I just felt like-
I'm
still like 'em.
legitimately pretty sure that the claims of it being woke mostly just had to do with the fact that one of the main cast members is a black woman and the other another main cast member is a mixed race woman.
Oh, that's
And
That's
then-
pretty
and then-
woke.
And then there's two
That'd
two
be
other
weird.
two other like young white guys and one other Frasier aged white guy.
You know, anybody in Frasier that, to be honest, Frasier is extremely white.
Yeah.
So anyone who isn't white in Frasier, if there is anyone not white in the Frasier remake, then I will say it's woke.
And I guess they have like a there's like a non-traditional like family setup in it, where like a character is sort of helping out with this other person's kid who's not their own kid, but the son of they're like a firefighter, the son of a friend who died like in the line of duty. So I don't know if that might be woke. I'm not sure. I don't know what woke means, to be honest.
yeah. I generally don't either.
I know. I don't know.
I
what
wouldn't
it
have thought
means
of that in
either.
context with Frasier.
It means
I'm just curious.
here's what it means. It means things that conservatives don't like. They don't like
That's
it.
what it seems to be.
I don't
thinking.
like
Let's see.
it.
Yeah, that is a recurring theme.
But we'll move on. I don't have anything to say about this episode of Frasier. There's a couple left. It was good, but
It's
it
worth
wasn't.
Watching, though?
It is worth
Okay,
watching.
good.
So far.
I think the last couple were a little. I think this was like one of the weaker in the last couple. It was not quite as like as tight,
I
but it had,
skimmed over it a couple times, and then I just kind of keep going.
yeah.
Are they releasing them weekly?
Yeah, they're releasing them weekly,
Ooh.
which I like personally. But anything else? Anything else people want to shout out? I know I want to give a fucking let's get a ceasefire up in this bitch. And I think that'd be cool.
Well, isn't there a ceasefire now?
It's like a bullshit one, apparently.
Started.
Okay, I haven't.
Oh, it's
I haven't-
bullshit.
It's like lasting
It's
for like
not
3
bullshit
days.
Ceasefire.
It's like a temporary. It's like a 3-day one. Let's get a real one going.
Is there
I wanted to. I've been watching the Scott Pilgrim show, which has been very good. You have to get through the first episode because first episode's kind of a retread of stuff you already know, but then it breaks off from that. I also just wanted to say I'm going to retire my Haunted Mansion bit because I can't think of where I say that the next episode we're going to do is about the Haunted Mansion special, because I can't think of ways to make it funny anymore. So I wanted to find.
I think it's coming out to
Eddie
Blu-ray.
Murphy?
You could do an unboxing special.
Yeah, but it's I tried to find a MIDI of like I will remember you for this part, but
Rip.
I couldn't. Rest in peace, my hilarious Haunted Mansion bit that everyone loved. And
we need a clever gravestone to go with the death of the Haunted Mansion bit.
but is there anything you guys want to shout out?
Please follow me on Twitch.
Pimsky
You have a Twitch?
TV.
I'm Pimsky TTV. I'm trying to get 50 followers so that I maybe can get an affiliate status so I can use my emotes. That's my whole goal of being a streamer. Is I just want to use emotes.
I
Nice.
think you need 75
own.
followers. Is it 50 now?
It's
Who knows?
50, I think.
You guys can talk
Oh,
about this off
Kit
air.
gets 75.
Do you have? I want 50.
Well, anything else? Anyone else got? Please follow Paul.
Please
Follow
follow
Paul.
me.
I want to say thanks to Brian for composing our outro. I want to say please follow us, CinemaCurse666 on Instagram and TikTok. Share us. Please share this episode with your turkey man. You're the guy you
What's
buy
a turkey man?
the guy you buy your turkey from. Your turkey man. And go to your
That's
turkey man.
Jewel Osco?
And
do you have a
Local-
do you have
little
a
local
Los
turkey
Angeles
man.
tourist man? Yeah.
the turkey man
LA
himself.
turkey man.
And I want to say please like, subscribe, smash that like button, etc. Also, I want to go ahead and start shouting out. We're gonna start doing a recurring episode thing on here starting in January, like mid-January. I think the January 10th will be the earliest we do it. The Twin Peaks Book Club, where we're going to be watching about 4 or 5 episodes worth of Twin Peaks, an episode and talking about it and really just luxuriating and enjoying Twin Peaks. And that first one, we're going to talk about the pilot and episodes 1 and 2. Being the pilot being double length, so it's about 4 episodes worth of stuff. So please join for that. But next week we have another Edwin-centric episode, Edwin's Explosive Xmas, where he picked. He wants us to talk about Die Hard 2 and I Come in Peace, Dolph Lundgren, I guess Christmas set action alien science fiction movie. So we'll
Sounds
see.
about right.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, because Die Hard's always the alternate pick for favorite Christmas movie.
Yeah.
You know, you say like, "What's your favorite Christmas movie?" And people who are like, trying to be different will say Die Hard.
Yeah.
But nobody says Die Hard 2 except Edwin.
Except Edwin. Well, probably I think also Edwin probably doesn't want to just talk about Die Hard, to be honest. That's part of it. But yeah, thank you guys for joining.
Thanks for inviting me.
And I'll see you guys later. Bye bye. Goodbye, citizens.